So Pete, what you got, man?
The updates we have right now is we have a 16-year-old female who was shot today. She remains in critical condition at Legacy Emanuel. 17-year-old male was also shot. He's in serious condition at last check. He was one of the 3 transported from the scene. A 20-year-old male also shot, serious condition at current. He is at Legacy Emanuel. And we learned of a 4th victim, a 19-year-old female who received a minor grazing wound here at the scene. She was treated here at the scene. The school, at the time of the incident, we're still trying to gather how many kids were in the school at the time. The school normally has a curriculum that serves 150 or so students and members of the community. It's a community-based alternative school associated with Portland Public Schools. All 4 of the victims are affiliated with the school as either students or kids who, young folks who have been there for various reasons. They have job training and all kinds of different things. Preliminarily, we learned from witnesses that there may have been a dispute outside the school on the corner of Killingsworth Court and Borthwick that led up to the shooting. We are still trying to get to the bottom of that to determine what that dispute was about, how serious that dispute was leading up to today, if it was based on prior activities between people. We don't know if any one of the 4 victims was the subject of that dispute or if they were people that happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. The suspected shooter, right now we have information, he is an African-American male in his late teens or early 20s. He was accompanied with 2 other African-American males of the same age range. After the shooting, they ran northbound on Borthwick and then turned eastbound on Killingsworth. Based on every piece of information we have, they left the area very quickly, which gave us reason to focus just on the school area and not do a block-to-block type search. The gang enforcement team is out here. The gun task force is out here. Homicide detectives are assisting. This is obviously a significant crime scene, and we need all resources available to us and experienced investigators. ATF was here and FBI was here. They offered their assistance to the police bureau. We do work in partnership with them, with our Metro Gang Task Force and our gun task force. So having their presence here isn't a support role only. This is a Portland police investigation. As we talked about earlier, this was initially believed, based on the information we had, to be an active shooter situation. As it turned out, when we got here pretty quickly, determined it was not. The shooter never entered the school, did not have unrestricted access to victims, as we've seen in other incidents, and the shooter and associates left the area very quickly. The school went into lockdown immediately and protected the other students there. POIC, which is next door and kind of a parent program to the school, also went into lockdown, as did PCC and Jefferson High School. This is a significant educational complex, if you will, in the neighborhood, and so all the schools follow protocols to the best of our knowledge, and everything worked as it's supposed to in the schools. At this point, the school's been released. The students have been released to their family members. We are working with school staff to establish further communication and obviously follow up with the students. This is, I think for everybody associated with the schools and with the neighborhood, this is incredibly traumatic. There's a lot of tight-knit families and people live in this neighborhood associated with these schools, and to have something like this happen is very difficult to understand. We are working with our outreach partners in the community to make sure we are getting information, to make sure we are sharing information, and to give people a clear direction that we are focusing every bit of effort we have in the police bureau on this case. That's all I have for right now. I'll take some questions.
Have you been able to speak with the victims?
Suspects were on foot at the time of the shooting. Whether or not they had a vehicle around the area, we're still working to figure out.
Do you have the names for the suspects?
No.
Have you been able to interview?
Sorry?
Have you been able to interview the victims?
I don't know if the victims have been able to provide any information yet. They were talking and alert when they were here at the scene and when they got to the hospital. What they were able to offer, I don't really know yet. Our investigators are at the hospital with them.
Did any of the students inside of the school possibly have an idea of who the shooter might be?
Well, we're talking to, and we have talked to a number of witnesses here. We'll be continuing to talk to more. Again, our preliminary information that, I've given you is giving us indication of who the shooters were. There is certainly more information that we've been provided that we will not be sharing publicly. We do have an ongoing active investigation that we don't want to one, put out incorrect information. We also don't want to jeopardize the investigation by sharing things that only suspect or suspect associates might know.
Do you know how many shots were fired?
I don't yet. Our investigators are processing the crime scene, and we'll certainly have that information at some point.
The victims were wounded in the body. The 17-year-old who's in critical condition,
we're not sharing exactly where they're hurt just at this point. We want to ensure their families have all been given all the information they can, and our investigators had a chance to collect that information.
The mayor said earlier that you guys had identified the gunman. Is that correct?
I would say that's a little preliminary. We have a lot of information that comes in early at a crime scene. Not all of it turns out to be correct. And, we certainly don't want to act on information without being able to verify it and corroborate that. We do have a large number of experienced investigators here that are taking a look at every piece of information that comes in, and we'll take the appropriate action as we can.
Does it look like they were targeted these students were targeted for a specific reason? Do you know?
Well, we don't know what led up to the shooting. Our information at this point is pretty limited, that there was some kind of a dispute. Whether that was between one of the victims and the shooter or the group of people, we're trying to figure that out. Oftentimes we see incidents where there's a dispute between people. Someone pulls a gun and starts firing, and other people get hit. We've seen too many incidents of that happening, and so we don't want to jump to conclusions there. Again, based on our preliminary information and things being shared with the investigators, we're looking at the possibility that the shooter may be gang affiliated. That may not have anything to do with the shooting. The students may not be at all related to gangs. We don't want to leave that conclusion with anybody. They may be victims of some incident that happened unrelated to them personally.